Imagine this. The year is 1550. The Ottoman Empire stretches from the gates of Vienna. It controls 3 continents. It commands the world's most powerful army. And behind every single one of them sits a woman that none of them can touch. She was not born into royalty. She was not a princess. She was not even free. She was a teenage girl dragged from her village in chains. And yet, for 40 years, she pulled the strings of the greatest empire on earth. Her name was Hürrem Sultan, and this is her full story.
To understand Hürrem Sultan, you first need to understand the world she was born into. It is the early 1500s. The Ottoman Empire is at the height of its power. Sultan Selim, known as Selim the Grim, has just doubled the size of the empire in 8 years. His son, the young Suleiman, is about to inherit the most powerful throne in the world. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, in a small village in Ruthenia, the region we now call Western Ukraine, a girl is born. Her real name is believed to be Alexandra or Anastasia Lisowska. Her father is said to have been a Galician Orthodox priest. She grows up in a world of farming, prayer, and community. She speaks Ruthenian. She knows nothing of palaces or emperors. Her life is simple, ordinary, safe, until it isn't. In this era, the Crimean Tatars, a powerful nomadic force allied with the Ottoman Empire, regularly raid villages across Eastern Europe. They kidnap men, women, and children. They sell them into slavery. It is a brutal but organized trade that feeds workers, soldiers, and concubines into the empire's enormous appetite. One day, historians believe sometime between 1517 and 1520, the Tatars come to her village. Alexandra is taken. Everything she has ever known disappears behind her. She is marched to the Crimean coast, loaded onto a ship, and transported to Constantinople, the city that sits at the crossroads of the world. The city that the Ottomans call the center of civilization itself. She arrives not as a guest, not as a visitor. She arrives as property. What happens next will change the Ottoman Empire forever. Constantinople in the 1520s is the most magnificent city on earth. It has over 500,000 people. Its skyline is full of minarets, domes, and towers. Topkapi Palace, the seat of Ottoman power, sits on a hill overlooking the Bosphorus Strait, commanding views of both Europe and Asia at the same time. Alexandra is brought to the slave markets. She arrives at Topkapi Palace in chains. She is selected, either by Suleiman's mother, Hafsa Sultan, or by Ibrahim Pasha, Suleiman's closest friend, to enter the imperial harem. Now, most people today think of a harem as a place of luxury and leisure. The reality was far more complicated. The imperial harem was one of the most politically dangerous places in the Ottoman Empire. Hundreds of women lived inside. Most were slaves from conquered or raided territories. They competed not just for the Sultan's attention, but for survival. A concubine who bore the Sultan a son gained status, protection, and resources. A concubine who was forgotten could disappear into obscurity forever. The rules were strict. The hierarchy was fierce. And into this world walked a teenage girl from Ukraine who spoke no Turkish, knew no one, and had nothing. Most girls in her position broke. They accepted their fate. They followed the rules. They faded away. Alexandra did not break. Within the Ottoman court, Suleiman gave her a new name, Hürrem, meaning the joyful one. That name would prove prophetic, because Hürrem chose joy as a weapon. While other concubines competed through beauty or seduction, Hürrem chose a different strategy. She studied. She learned Turkish rapidly. She learned to read and write Arabic. She studied the Quran. She converted to Islam. She read poetry, and she wrote her own. She made herself not just desirable, but indispensable. She made the Sultan not just want her, but need her. But before Hürrem could win Suleiman's heart, she had to survive the harem itself. Her biggest rival was a woman named Mahidevran Sultan. Mahidevran was already Suleiman's favorite concubine. She had already given him his firstborn son, Prince Mustafa. In Ottoman tradition, a concubine who bore the Sultan a son was protected, honored, and elevated. Mahidevran believed her position was secure. She was wrong. As Hürrem rose in Suleiman's favor, the rivalry turned vicious. According to historical accounts, Mahidevran physically attacked Hürrem, scratching her face, pulling her hair, calling her a sold piece of meat. She raged that Hürrem was trying to steal what was rightfully hers. When Suleiman heard what had happened, he chose Hürrem. Mahidevran was demoted. Her access to the Sultan was cut off. And when her son Mustafa was sent to govern a distant province, as was Ottoman tradition, Mahidevran had to follow him, leaving Constantinople forever. But Mahidevran was not Hürrem's only problem. There was Ibrahim Pasha. Pagal Ibrahim Pasha was Suleiman's closest friend, his Grand Vizier, his confidant, his brother in everything but blood. He had been at Suleiman's side since childhood. He commanded armies. He negotiated with foreign empires. He was, in many ways, the second most powerful person in the Ottoman Empire. And Ibrahim Pasha did not like Hürrem Sultan. Ibrahim Pasha supported Prince Mustafa, Suleiman's eldest son and heir apparent. This put him directly in conflict with Hürrem, whose sons could only inherit the throne if Mustafa was out of the picture. Two power centers, one empire, only one could survive. Hürrem began her campaign slowly and carefully. She whispered to Suleiman about Ibrahim's growing arrogance. She pointed out how Ibrahim referred to himself as Sultan in diplomatic negotiations. She noted how Ibrahim was building his own network of loyalty that rivaled the Sultan himself. Was she lying? Not entirely. Ibrahim had grown arrogant and was much hated. Even Ambassador Bragadin noted this in official reports. Ibrahim ran his own military campaigns and even referred to himself as Sultan during negotiations. Hürrem simply made sure Suleiman noticed. On March 15, 1536, servants found Ibrahim Pasha with his throat cut. He had been Suleiman's closest friend for 13 years. Now, he was gone, and Hürrem was still standing. To understand why Hürrem had so much power, you must understand one thing. Suleiman the Magnificent was completely, utterly, and dangerously in love with her. This was not ordinary affection. This was something the Ottoman Empire had never seen from a sultan before. Suleiman wrote her poetry, real poetry, not ceremonial verses, but deeply personal letters expressing longing, devotion, and need. He wrote, "My springtime, my merry, faced love, my daytime, my sweetheart, laughing leaf, my woman of the beautiful hair, my love of the slanted brow, my love of eyes full of mischief." He called her his queen. He called her his everything. Unlike her rivals, Hürrem offered the Sultan not just beauty, but partnership. She became his confidante, his intellectual equal, and his most trusted advisor. While Suleiman was away on military campaigns, which could last months or even years, Hürrem wrote him letters, long, detailed, intelligent letters. She described events in Constantinople. She reported on political tensions. She advised him on appointments and policy. She asked questions about his campaigns and offered strategic observations. These were not love letters. They were intelligence reports, written with the warmth of a wife and the precision of a statesman. Suleiman came to rely on her, and here is where everything changed. Previous sultans had maintained strict rules. A concubine bore one son and no more. She then followed that son to his provincial post and never returned to Constantinople. This kept power dispersed. It prevented any one woman from accumulating too much influence. Suleiman and Hürrem Sultan had 6 children together, including 5 boys. He broke every rule for her. She was not going anywhere. In approximately 1533, Suleiman did something that stunned the entire Ottoman Empire and sent shockwaves through every royal court in Europe. he freed Hürrem Sultan from slavery. And then he married her. She became the chief consort and legal wife of Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, and the first Haziki Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. This had not happened in over 200 years of Ottoman history. Sultans did not marry their concubines. It simply was not done. The entire system of Ottoman succession was built on keeping women as concubines, not wives, so that no single woman could claim legal rights over the empire. Suleiman threw that tradition away. A concubine who had formerly ranked above Hürrem is said to have spat at the new queen. "Traitor, sold meat, you want to compete with me?" European ambassadors were bewildered. They sent urgent reports back to their kings and emperors. Who was this woman? How had she done this? What did it mean for the empire? What it meant was this: her marriage gave her unprecedented status, her own palace outside Topkapi, enormous wealth, and diplomatic correspondence with European monarchs. Suleiman threw that tradition away. A concubine who had formerly ranked above Hürrem is said to have spat at the new queen. "Traitor, sold meat, you want to compete with me?" European ambassadors were bewildered. They sent urgent reports back to their kings and emperors. Who was this woman? How had she done this? What did it mean for the empire? What it meant was this: her marriage gave her unprecedented status, her own palace outside Topkapi, enormous wealth, and diplomatic correspondence with European monarchs. With the title of legal wife secured, Hürrem moved her operation into full power. She moved her residence from the old palace into the heart of power, Topkapi Palace itself, establishing the harem as the new center of the imperial family and consequently of court politics. She built her intelligence network. She placed loyal eunuchs and officials in key positions throughout the palace. She monitored conversations. She tracked political alliances. She knew things before the Grand Vizier knew them. Hürrem strategically married her daughter, Mirima, to Arstem, who was the governor of Diyarbakir. Through Hürrem's planning, he became Grand Vizier to Suleiman, while his predecessor was executed. Think about this for a moment. She arranged her daughter's marriage not for love, but to install her own son-in-law as the second most powerful man in the empire. She now had a direct line from the harem to the Grand Vizierate. Foreign kings wrote to her directly. She corresponded directly with foreign kings and queens, the King of Poland and the sister of the Shah of Persia. She funded the construction of mosques, schools, hospitals, and public baths across the empire, building a public image of generosity and piety that made her untouchable in the eyes of ordinary people. Suleiman trusted her absolutely, but there was still one problem: Prince Mustafa. Prince Mustafa was everything a future sultan should be. He was tall, brave, and beloved by the Janissaries, the Ottoman Empire's elite military force. He was intelligent. He was experienced. He had been governing provinces since his teenage years. Most of the empire assumed Mustafa would be the next sultan. The army would follow him. The people loved him. For Hürrem Sultan, this was an existential threat. If Mustafa became sultan, her sons would likely be killed, as was Ottoman tradition when a new ruler took power, and Hürrem herself would lose everything. So she went to work. Hürrem and Arstem spread rumors that Mustafa was plotting a rebellion against Suleiman. Arstem, as Grand Vizier, the very man Hürrem had installed through her daughter's marriage, sent Suleiman letters from the front lines. The letters suggested that the army was ready to declare Mustafa sultan, while Suleiman still lived, and that Mustafa was conspiring with the Persian enemy. Suleiman, now aging and increasingly suspicious, believed it. In 1553, Suleiman had Mustafa strangled in his tent, his own son, his firstborn, the heir that the entire army had believed in. When news reached the Janissaries, grown soldiers openly wept. A famous Ottoman poet wrote a lament for Mustafa so powerful that Suleiman had him arrested. But Mustafa was dead, and Hürrem's son was now the heir to the Ottoman throne. Hürrem was widely condemned for her alleged role in Mustafa's death. Across Europe, political pamphlets, dramas, and debates portrayed her as the mastermind behind the tragedy. They called her a witch, a sorceress, a devil, in silk. She had outlasted every rival, outmaneuvered every enemy, and she had done it all without ever holding a weapon. The pen and the whisper had proven mightier than the sword. Hürrem Sultan died on April 15th, 1558. Suleiman was devastated. He never remarried. He had her buried in a magnificent tomb inside the Suleymaniye Mosque, one of the greatest architectural achievements of the Ottoman Empire. It was an honor almost unheard of for any woman in Ottoman history, but her legacy did not die with her. She became the first in a series of prominent women who lived during the period that came to be known as the Sultanate of Women. After Hürrem, the trend intensified. Nurbanu Sultan influenced policy during her son's reign, while Safavi Sultan dominated court politics and even corresponded with Queen Elizabeth I of England. One woman after another stepped into the role that Hürrem had created. The harem, once a place of isolation, became a parallel government, a shadow cabinet, a second seat of power. Despite the criticism she faced during her lifetime, Hürrem's position as Haziki Sultan opened the door for future imperial women to exercise unprecedented political influence. Or nearly 130 years after her death, women from the harem would shape the destiny of the Ottoman Empire. All of it was built on the foundation laid by one slave girl from Ukraine, who arrived in chains and left as a legend. History remembers conquerors. It celebrates armies. It names its eras after sultans and kings. But sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody is watching. Hürrem Sultan had no army, no title at birth, no family connections, no wealth, no freedom. What she had was a mind sharper than any sword in the Ottoman Empire, and she used it to rewrite the rules of one of history's greatest dynasties. If you want more untold stories like this, stories of real power, real strategy, and real drama from history's greatest empires, subscribe right now. Because history is never what they taught you in school, and we're just getting started.